Hello, my name is Donna, and I am very passionate about history. Believe that learning about history is important for us as a people and where we came from and who we are and sometimes where we're going. I am of the belief that you can't change the past by erasing history, by telling a prettier story, or by taking down monuments. And I believe to do so cheats us as the American people. Um, there's been a change in our country, and it's been in our history, and people are believing if we take down statues and we remove unpleasantries from our books, that we will somehow make history better. Some believe that if we remove the symbols of the past and we get rid of the unpleasantness, that we will create a better environment for people and it'll be more peaceful. And some even say that by doing so, we'll create a more perfect society and we will all be able to get along better if we quit talking about the bad things that we have done in our past. I don't believe this to be true. I believe that we as a people can't get along if we don't know where we've come from. In the words of Winston Churchill, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And there are many examples of this through history. I think that the most striking one for me is Napoleon and Hitler and them repeating the same mistakes in Russia. In the summer of 1812, Napoleon was fresh from many battles and he had won and basically was very overconfident when he believed that he could take on the Russians and win. In the summer of 1812, he started his campaign into Russia and he had victories in the early beginning, but the Russians practiced a technique called a scorched earth. They left no houses, no crops, no food behind, and Napoleon was dependent on that to survive for his troops. He underestimated the vast population of Russia and how many troops Russia would put on the lines to fight. And then the biggest issue was that winter arrived, and this led the troops with no food or shelter. Many succumbed to illness from the extreme temperatures and not having food. And he was forced to retreat and ended up losing a large part of his army. Then in 1941, Hitler did the same thing in the summer, started a campaign into Russia, many victories on his way. He underestimated the number of troops that Russia could supply, and he didn't plan for the Russian winters. The Russian soldiers were used to this weather and fought well in it, but the Germans did not. And Hitler was forced to retreat. And this explains what Churchill is saying is, although Hitler was a huge student of Napoleon and had studied his work, he essentially repeated the same mistakes by underestimating the Russian people and the severity of the Russian winter. And this goes toward understanding that when you study history and you study the things that past people have done, you study their mistakes and you learn to do things better. The other part of this is the removal of statues, and it's not just the Confederate statues who people see as offensive. It's going on to include things like the Washington Monument and Mount Rushmore. And people believe that removing these chains will somehow make the past easier to handle. Even the American flag is seen as a symbol that needs to be removed. I believe, in my opinion, that removing these may bring us a warm feeling and we may not have to think of the bad things, but it also doesn't allow us to remember where we've been. I don't think that without our history we know where we came from as a people. And I believe that keeping some of these statues, monuments, and this information out in our history books shows us how far much more we have to do and how much further we have to go. Stephen Hawking said, "We spend a great deal of time studying history, which, let's face it, is mostly the history of stupidity." And in many ways, he is right. Our past isn't pleasant. It isn't beautiful. It isn't some things we're not proud of. But it teaches us that back then we were stupid, just like he said. And it teaches us to be better people. It teaches us the kind of society we want to be. So, in my opinion, I do not believe, and I would like for you to believe, that removing our history and removing our statues is not going to change the society that we want to become. Studying history and having it placed in the correct context will make us a better people. Thank you.